Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, lots of stuff has happened, so let's get started, shall we? Alright, first things first is, let me do one side note. We have Anna Paquin. I know this isn't Spider-Man news, but apparently Anna Paquin was like, playing Rogue again. I'll only play Rogue one more time if Rogue can fly. And she says this on her Twitter page, which you guys can click down below. She says, "No, I'm just saying that the comic book Rogue gets to fly, and I never did. I want to be the badass Rogue, not this shy teen Rogue." So yeah, that's what she basically said. So down below you can click and actually read the whole entire conversation that happened. But anyways, let's get to what you guys came here for. Is how Kevin Feige actually tried to save Amazing Spider-Man 2. And yeah, X-Men covered this. Seven Webheads, I think actually, yeah, he did cover this as well. But anyways, let's just get started with what I got. Alright, I had to flip back and forth because I needed to also, because like I do, I usually compare what X-Men says and what Seven Webhead said, and I didn't actually watch his because I thought, but it looks like he had more stuff included, so yeah, now I can actually get involved with this. So Kevin Feige tried to save Amazing Spider-Man 2, and apparently he tried to do it in November 2013. So here's a few things that he has. Yeah, the first part I got from X-Men, and the next one after saying what. Yeah, let's get started. So first, he starts with the armored car, and it builds into the danger. Yeah, so instead of having the whole plane thing, the parents and stuff like that, which personally for me, especially if you're a Matilda fan, if you love Matilda the movie, then basically you should agree with this, because if you love Miss Honey, if you never want to see the person who plays Miss Honey, or heck, if you see her as Miss Honey, do you really want to see her get killed in a plane crash, even though they cut? I don't think so. So yeah, get rid of the plane crash idea and just start with the armored car, and they'll build into a danger, and then all of a sudden the heroic hero makes his entrance. That does make sense. Next up is tone down Paul's performance. Make him more menacing. And this is what Seven Webheads said, because I have to include his. So Seven Webheads claims that he should actually be cartoony, because that's one thing that Kevin Feige says, that he was like cartoony and he wasn't really that much menacing and all that, which Seven Webheads said, "Oh, but that is the character of Rhino. He was stupid. He was one that shouldn't be taken seriously," and all that stuff. Here is my opinion. If they would have done what Kevin Feige said, that would at least keep the idea of they want a darker, grittier Spider-Man. Because that's what they were going with. If they actually continued with having the Rhino being dark and gritty, or at least having the bad guys dark and gritty, then that means at least they went half and half on it. At least they didn't actually have the superhero continue to be dark and gritty, but instead, the world he's in is dark and gritty, but yet he is the light. That makes so much sense, don't you think? Makes so much sense. Anyways, yeah, so as the opener, here's another thought on that. Harry comes home and sees Norman. And this happened in a plane crash. The plane crash happens, and then they cut, instead of having Spider-Man showing up and saying, "How's the world today? Let's see what's going down." Instead, he'll basically have Harry comes home and Harry seeing Norman. So they actually will establish Harry's story as the main. And it also brings the idea of a cold opening to the movie. Yeah, cold cut. Kind of like what happened with the whole original Spider-Man. The fact that Green Goblin killed everyone at that military base, and then after that they cut and they had graduation. Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that, but at least it'll be even better. But anyways, next is get rid of the apartment scene with Electro. So Seven Webheads basically was like, yeah, you deserve to keep it, because he was basically a loner. He was someone that was an outcast, and for after many, many years of being alone, he will talk to himself. He will talk to the cake and tries to motivate him. One thing I do have to say, I have to add this in, is the fact that the deleted scene of his grandma, oh no, actually it was his mom. I would think if you include the mom deleted scene, that's one thing that no one actually talked about. And Seven Webs didn't talk about it, X-Men didn't talk about it, but here's what I need to talk about is if they had this apartment scene along with the mom doling down on him, that would equal, yes, that makes perfect sense because he's the only one in his world that actually gives him compliments. Everyone else just sees him as a grunt, or technically sees him as Emmett from Lego Movie. Not that special or important. But if they actually continue to have the mom thing in there, at least we actually will get more in touch with him instead of just having him basically be ridiculed and said he was Edward Nygma. He's Edward Nygma from Batman Forever. That's what basically people says, but I still can't see it. Yeah, he doesn't have like a suit of green and yellow mannequin. Yeah, he doesn't have a mannequin with a green and yellow suit on, so yeah. Alright, next up is they need to set up the power plant earlier in the movie. Visually, they should actually start with it earlier, which does make sense because the power plant came out of nowhere, even though given they did have the whole blueprints and stuff like that, but we didn't get to see the blueprints. And then after that, I think there was a scene where they revealed that they have blueprints on the power plant and all that stuff, but actually seeing the power plant for ourselves would actually give a nice, decent, yeah, I mean, at least that would have been decent enough. Alright, next is focus the point of view on Spider-Man. They kept on switching point of views from Electro, and Harry, and Peter. That's one thing that actually got the critics saying, yeah, this is not a good movie, is because they couldn't focus which point of view they wanted to do. Which that technically does show a little bit of Webb's Sundance experience, I guess. Because he's not really that experience of a director, but on the other hand, well, we don't really know which Sony had control of. I mean, they had control of the script, so I guess technically it was Sony's fault, but on the other hand, you did have the director who was filming it, so, but he did have no say, so I guess it is still Sony's fault. Alright, next is, seems like they were wishy-washy, the whole Peter and Gwen relationship. The fact that they're on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again. Kind of like a repeat from the previous movie. Which I can understand for myself why in a world that actually happened. It does make sense because it's kind of like he's struggling with the idea of, should I be with her? But I just told her father I would never have her in the line of fire in my duty as a hero. So yeah, I kind of understand why they're doing it, but on the other hand, it's kind of like, yeah, I do understand the whole idea of the off again, on again relationship is crap. I do have to admit that is kind of a bit of crap, but it does fit though. It does fit. Alright, next is the spiders are based on Peter's blood, which makes him not special at all. Instead, he was predestined for the role of being Spider-Man. That is true, yeah, that is true. They kind of mixed up the thing because they were trying to do the secret origins of Spider-Man, untold story, which, yeah, I mean, even in the Ultimates, they didn't really have that idea. In the Ultimates, what really happened was just the fact that you had Norman Osborn who was experimenting on spiders, and he injected the spiders with some Oz serum and made scientifically made spiders, and because of that, that's what happened. And yeah, this is a better story than what they did with Amazing Spider-Man, actually, because the story happens is that Peter Parker gets bit. Then after he gets bit, Norman puts on surveillance just in case, because if he does die from it, well, they're going to get screwed. They're going to get so screwed and sued that it's not even funny. So that's why they had him followed, and then later on, they tried to run him over. Yeah, Norman said, run the boy over. And Peter actually jumped very, very high in the sky to dodge it. And they're all like, what the heck? So he's like, report back, and they had to take a blood sample from him and all that. And then they took another blood sample from him when he went to Oscorp again with the invite of Harry. So yeah, you had all that crap happening. As you can see, that would have made a decent story than what we got with Amazing Spider-Man. You should have just stuck with the idea of being with the Ultimates. You should have stuck with that idea and continued on with it. But instead, you went your own which way, basing it out of so many Spider-Man things that it's not even funny which one you actually were leaning on. Anyways, next up is no showing New York being looted. Yeah, so in an Electro fight, you basically had the electricity going out. And as soon as electricity went out, everyone decided to just go out there and start looting, start stealing crap. And he said, yeah, it's not a good idea to show any of that. So I think it's a good idea. And also, what about the New Yorkers out there? There's many New Yorkers who's going to say, oh, hell no, we wouldn't do that crap. And of course, you have other New Yorkers who's like, that sounds like a good idea. But still, it kind of doesn't show New York City in a good light if they actually did do that. So it's a good idea, yeah. I mean, they should actually not shown that, which they didn't. Anyways, you have the next one is you have Spider-Man wanting to save someone, but he couldn't do it. Yeah. You know, that one's kind of cut dry. Sorry about that one. Next is Aunt May in the kitchen. That scene needs to be cut. Yeah, so you cut that one out. That's what you need to do. And the other one that he said you should cut out is the fact that the surveillance on Peter and Harry. The one that we actually saw in the stupid trailer, which, yeah, the stupid marketing dude should have been told, no, do not show that one in the freaking trailer. We got rid of it. Don't do it. But they did in the trailer, but they did get rid of it in the movie. So that's the good news. That's a hit and a miss. Alright, yeah, that's all X-Men said, but here is what Seven Webheads said. And Seven Webheads kind of did a little gut punch a little bit. The fact that he kind of dissed Feige, saying there's some... Yeah, he's kind of like saying there's some things that he says that he doesn't know best of doing. Yeah, he always doesn't know best, so... He kind of gut punched there, saying he doesn't really know what he's talking about in some of the things. But here's everything that Seven Webheads covered. He covered all of them and more so. So I'm going to tell you the more so part. So the first one is Spider-Man should feel responsible for the plane crash. I think it was either the parents' plane crash, but more so of the two freaking planes going to collide to each other. Somehow he most likely spots them and see, oh my gosh. And he tries to his best to help them out. Yeah, I guess that might be the thing that they were talking about. Anyways, next Kevin Feige says they should lead up to the Rhino suit, reveal it beforehand, and then later on after the, which he kind of says you should montage Gwen's speech with someone walking into special projects, and then they reveal that the suit has been stolen. Yeah. What they did in the movie, if you guys can't really recall, is the fact that they show the Rhino suit exactly the same moment as it's getting stolen. Yeah, and then actually they don't even reveal the Rhino suit. Instead, we just know that the Rhino suit got stolen. Actually, no, they did show that. But then they showed bank robbery. Someone jailbreaked out of course, Rhino jailbreaked out of the prison, took the suit, and then went out in the city, which... That is kind of like cut dry. I mean, they could actually have built that up, which I think in the original version of the script, I think the plutonium that they were stealing, which I bet they might have more of them, is going to power the Rhino suit. Because notice the Rhino suit still has the freaking Russian star on it, which is like, why the frick does Oscorp want to have a Russian star on it? It should actually says Oscorp on it or something, or the O and the C logo. But yeah, it's kind of crazy on that part. What I think is an original cut of it was the fact that they were having the Russians, and the Russians were being screwed over by Spider-Man so much that they decide, hey, we're going to steal crap, going to make a suit, and then we're going to show Spider-Man what's what. And then eventually they reveal that they made the Rhino suit and it's powered by plutonium. And now it's a showdown between Spider-Man and the Rhino. Which technically, if they would have went down this road, it would still have the dark, gritty thing that they decided to run away from due to all the fans saying, "Boo, that sucks." Technically, no, it's more of the fact of his suit had to change. Well, anyways, let's continue on. So, next he said, cut the itsy bitsy Spider-Man scene with Electro. Like, use it somewhere else, but here it's not really that needed. Which, personally, I think that is kind of a good point. I mean, it was kind of like, wow. Alright, next is surveillance should be following Harry, not Peter. No one should be following Peter. This one right here is a disconnect because I think the surveillance part was actually part of the whole Peter's father. Is he alive or is he dead? We got to make sure to see if he actually had contact with him. That's why I think they had the surveillance scene. It's because of that. They wanted to see if Peter's father will actually come and visit him. Which, that's their deleted scene that they actually kept on promoting in a DVD, is see the scene that Peter meets his father and his father's not dead. That was actually going to be part of the movie, and this, the surveillance scene would be part of the reason why that happened, you see? If you can't really connect the dots or web that together, well, I'm sorry. Next is they need to underscore capture of Goblin. There's more sirens lingering on the 1:21 a.m. and then as soon as 1:22 a.m., that's when everything goes crazy and bananas. And yeah, instead of what they did, which they didn't listen to on that part. Next, he questions on the VFX if Electro is traveling. Yeah. How Electro travels from place to place. Are they using the VFX? So yeah, he was asking them a question. There's a few of them that he actually was asking questions, which I'm kind of like, y'all two know that he was actually asking questions on some of them. But anyways, yeah, next is the dancing mortician, which that's also a deleted scene. And that did get the cut, but he was like, the dancing mortician was a bit of cliche, and they agreed, and at least they actually listened to him on that one, and they deleted it. But you can find it in deleted scenes, actually, which it was kind of crazy. Yeah. Anyways, he liked the idea that May finds out that he's Spider-Man, finding his costume, and no coy previous May Parker thing. If you remember the original Spider-Man franchise, we kind of got in Spider-Man 2 that May Parker does know that he's Spider-Man, but it's kind of like we don't really know. And in the third movie, straight up derailed that because they didn't prove anything. All they did technically is just had one scene with May Parker. That's it. Actually, no, 2 scenes. They had 2 scenes, and that's it. Yeah, that's all. It's just 2 scenes. It's like, yeah, I mean, given he's living away from her, but still, you could have kind of, in between scenes, have like a little bit more scenes of May Parker in the third movie that actually has her a little bit hinting more that she knows that he's Spider-Man or something. But no, you derailed that. Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. But anyways, what he was trying to say is, in the first cut, you had May Parker actually finding Spider-Man's costume. She found it somehow, most likely looking through his room or something. So, and they cut that part. That's messed up. They cut that one. I knew that, yeah, it's kind of funny. I was going to do a video on this too. The fact that in both the sequels to Spider-Man, both of them, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2, you had May Parker who kind of might have known that Peter Parker actually is Spider-Man. And I might actually still do that video along the way. But still, isn't that kind of ironic and funny? The fact that the second movie, May Parker's knew that he was Spider-Man in a way. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But anyways, yeah, next is May tells Peter that his parents were spies. That's not needed because then it gets contradicted later on. So it's kind of like, yeah, that one wasn't really needed to be told. Next is Andrew's performance is all over the place. Lots of crying and lots of mania. He based this all because of a text message he got. Yeah, so he didn't actually get to see the performance. He actually just saw a text message saying he's crying, and then, yeah, that's when he, or at least that's what Seven Web had said. So, anyways, yeah. So, yeah, like you said, it dampers the reaction on Gwen's death because he kept on crying and stuff within the movie, which, let me try to remember. I don't think he was crying that much in the movie, but still, I didn't feel anything for Gwen when she died, actually. All because of the first movie didn't really give me a connection to her. So, yeah. Next up is Harry's story should be the main focus. The main focus in the story. And Harry is the reason why he looks to the past. Because, well, you know, we kind of didn't get like a true connection between Peter and Harry. So it would have been kind of cool. And this is exactly the tool that they used in Ultimate Spider-Man, the comic book. The fact that you had you had Eddie Brock showing up, but he did that because he was looking at home movies and he was missing his parents. And after that, he was wondering who was the family they were having a picnic with, and he's like, it was the Brocks. And then he was like, you know what, since my parents are dead and his parents are dead, and it's all because of that plane crash, I should send him this video because it will be something very thoughtful to do. And that's what he did. And that's how they got reconnected, is because of that. And that's when that's when Eddie actually showed him, this is our inheritance. This is the black suit, aka the cancer suit that will, cure cancer. And that later became freaking Venom. But anyways, yeah, that's how it went in the Ultimate comic book. So another one, and this was a question. Why does a year have to pass? Why does a year have to pass for him to actually do something? That's interesting. I think if we could have fit this in the MCU universe, it would have been very, very crazy. The fact that the Chitauri invasion on Earth happened on that year. That would be funny as hell. And that's why you don't see Spider-Man saving the day in there. It's because that was the year where he was crying over Gwen's death. Which, hey, look at that. That would have made a nice little hook shot there. And that's why he wasn't in the Avengers. It's because Gwen died. Of course, they did have to, they have to retool and everything. Then they have to make it that, I don't know how they would fix that part. But they have to make sure that the year when Gwen Stacy died was in the year 2011 or something. But hey, whoever actually wants to make this work, go ahead and tell me down below. Show me how that will actually have worked out. Next is, why was there a need of Captain Stacy's ghost? A voice would have done it, along with a flashback to when he was dying. His dying wish. And such. So it's kind of like, there was no real need for Dennis Leary to return, except for voiceover, but that's about it. He didn't really need the ghost. Next, Stan Lee's cameo needed more emphasis on it. Because, the idea he had was, how about you have Peter race against his name being called at the graduation? So he actually was by the thing, or by somewhere, taking off his costume, putting on his clothes, and you have Stan Lee actually looking at him while he was doing it. So he's making his way all the way until his name being called, and he's able to do it. So that was kind of, a little bit more of that would have been cool. Next is, he shouldn't have lied about the sirens. He should have downplayed them. That would be a Spider-Man thing to do. That would have been a Spider-Man thing to do. There could be a better way to reveal Peter's missing graduation. First, you'll have a cut to Gwen, and then you wide shot it and show that he's missing. Which I think that's what they did in the movie, so there we go. He liked the idea that the eel goes in his mouth, and instead of burrowing, you'll see it glow within him. Next is too many storylines. choose which one you're gonna focus on and lift out the other ones. Like reduce the one with the father's arc, and just put it into Roosevelt. So Roosevelt will have the whole entire arc, which that's what they did. That's the wrap up thing they did, but they didn't actually cut him completely out. So yeah, here's what Seven Webheads has to say before I can end this. It's the fact that he wanted to add more opinions on his own. Yeah, so he defends the Rhino and scoffs on Ben Kingsley's performance on the Mandarin. Well, the fake Mandarin. He defends Electro's apartment scene. He agrees on Harry's story being the main or secondary. Green Goblin should be the first villain, and then the second villain should be Electro. So yeah, my question was like, so she found out he was Spider-Man, but they got rid of that scene. They got rid of that part. That's kind of messed up. And he basically said, yeah, well, New York City looting, what would happen without electricity? People would loot. So that's what he agrees that should stay in. So he disagrees on Andrew's performance, and this is where he tells us is based on a text message. That's why he said he critiqued the whole idea. And the idea of get rid of the parent story. Green Goblin should be first, Harry's important, and then Electro is secondary. That's his last thing. So yeah, that's about all that you need to know from Kevin Feige, which I bet there's even more stuff that will leak up. So stay tuned for the rest of it. And one final notice is Kevin Feige's contract will be up in 2018, but we would figure that he will re-sign it, and he would also play ball this time. He will actually ask for a decent sum of money. But anyways, I'm going to web out. So, peace.